Clarence, a show with great characters, with even better dynamics between those characters. So, today I'm going to take a look at one of the best episodes that showcases these dynamics, Plant Daddies. I'm tired of writing these intros, fam. You know what the show is. You clicked on the video. Just play the damn song. The episode starts with the kids in Aberdale Elementary getting a group project. They all have to pair up and look after a plan for a few weeks. The kids are all shown to be really excited about pairing up with their friends to do the project until Miss Baker tells them that she's going to be the one assigning them into groups. A truly shitty feeling that I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, especially at a young age. I've said this about 1,000,000 times, but Clarence is one of the only shows that truly captured what it was like to be a kid. And in this episode, every one of them has different ways of coping with being around someone they don't typically mesh with. And that's what this episode aims to do.
Clarence.
Yeah!
And Sumo. Jeff and Belson. Kimby and Chelsea.
Anyone who knows anything about this show knows how much of a mismatch these groups are. Like, Sumo and Clarence are okay, they're both on similar ends of the spectrum, so there shouldn't be too many issues. But Jeff and Belson is a horrendous one, because Belson solves all of his problems by throwing money at them, and Jeff actually cares about his education and does things honestly. Then there's Kimby and Chelsea. Now, I don't know too much about Kimby, but from all her appearances and the way she acts in the start of this episode, her and Chelsea as a combo is designed to fail. Chelsea is very tomboyish in nature and isn't really into all the girly stuff that Kimby is into. In short, this project was designed to be a disaster. Yet all three of these end in a way that tell three different stories that not only offer the audience some lessons, but a lot of jokes and wholesome stuff too. So let's take a look at all three of these dynamics, starting with...
Come on, move! Fine.
Sumo and Clarence in theory should be the most smooth sailing of these dynamics. They're the best friends out of everyone, and their personalities can be just as chaotic as each other's. It doesn't start off smooth at all though. Clarence quickly grows an attachment to the plant, which they named Pot Pie, and Sumo is really indifferent. To him, it's just another plant.
It's just a little shrub weed. My mom makes me pluck 1,000,000 of them like every day.
This makes sense, and Sumo grew up in an environment where things like plants are just another thing to him, so he wouldn't see it as special. It takes a while for him to warm up to the idea of playing parent with him. The writers really went the extra mile with the parent gimmick. They read the plant books, tuck it into bed, take it for rides, all that stuff. It's quite wholesome actually. But obviously when you put two equally chaotic individuals and ask them to take care of something fragile, something is bound to go wrong.
Sumo, our pot pie has a boo-boo now!
Oh man, I wasn't trying to hurt your dang thing.
Don't touch her anymore!
Ow.
They end up getting some much needed help from Chad, who fixes Pot Pie for them. The adults in this show are great, especially Clarence's parents. They always have some kind of knowledge to drop, and these niggas definitely need it. The rest of their contribution to this episode is really just the two of them bonding over the plant, taking care of it and such. This part of the episode doesn't have too much comedy in it, and I can actually say that for the rest of the episode. This one is a lot more focused on the story, the dynamic, which is a good thing from my perspective, because it means I can really dive into the minutiae of the characters instead of what I usually do, which is sit here and fuck around for 8 to 10 minutes. At the end of the episode, the kids have to put their plants in this garden, and Clarence gets really emotional. Like a mom seeing her son leave for college like shit. I get it's supposed to be more of a comedic thing, but one, I don't really find it that funny, and two, I feel like if this episode was purely dedicated to the two of them, then a scene where Clarence gets all emotional at the end would feel a bit more fitting. Regardless, I still enjoy this section of the episode, and it definitely was the most smooth sailing of the three we're going to be looking at, with very little conflict to speak about. The same can't be said for Jeff and Belson though.
But we have to get all these supplies to be sure we reach our plant growth potential.
Here, just take my allowance and get us an A or whatever.
Jeff and Belson's dynamic in the episode centers around the idea of how the two of them go about solving their problems. Jeff isn't rich, takes pride in his academics, and he can't lie for his life. Belson is rich, doesn't care about school, or anyone for himself for that matter, and is very selfish. It's made clear from the jump that these two have their priorities in entirely different places. Here we see Belson do what he always does, and throw money at any situation he doesn't want to deal with. In one of my previous videos, I talked about Belson and Sumo's dynamic, and how his money is often used as a deflection from any real-world problems he has. He doesn't really treat people like people, but rather like people who can be bought. He doesn't contribute anything to the project other than money, and in general just doesn't care about it as long as Jeff can get him the A he wants. Speaking of Jeff, when he gets the money he needs for the supplies, instead of actually buying them, he spends them on these toys.
I'm just gonna take a look. Plants need play too. Here you go, buddy.
This wouldn't be classified as typical behavior for him. He's not very impulsive, and yet every time Belson gives him money, he never spends it for the project. I think this bit of characterization is cool though, because it grounds his character into still being a kid, who, like a normal kid does, sometimes doesn't make the best decisions. He's shown to spend all of his money on these toys and eventually has to come clean to Belson.
I spent the money you gave me on those. I'm so sorry, Belson. I couldn't help myself and...
Are these from RoboFrog?
What?
Yeah, I've been playing the new game.
With no time to finish the project, they resort to buying a plant. It backfires because for all the intelligence that Jeff is shown to have, he forgot to remove a price tag.
What was I thinking?
Jeff, who cares?
Belson!
Just give us a C.
Belson, that's not what I meant.
Fine, give us a D. I don't care.
Don't even...
These two clips that I played really highlight the difference in these two and what they value. When Belson figures out that Jeff's been using his money, he just doesn't even care. He just decides that he's gonna keep all the toys that Jeff bought, which is honestly fair, I guess. When he's confronted about being dishonest with the project, he just doesn't care and essentially trolls Jeff the whole time. In short, you've got someone who cares too little paired with someone who cares too much. It would have been cool to see them reach some sort of common ground, but that wouldn't have been realistic to the characters, and that's actually something I've always appreciated the show for doing. Out of all three dynamics I'll be examining today, this is probably the most problematic one, and it ends up the most poorly out of all of them. The next one though shows the most character progression in this episode, so it's time to talk about Chelsea and Kimby. These two are polar opposites in how they act. One of them is your typical I'm just a girl, and they're essentially paired up with one of the homies. Kimby is also separated from her usual group of friends, which adds to her apprehension of this project with Chelsea. Speaking of her though, she doesn't hold any assumptions or apprehension towards Kimby. She's pretty open-minded for the whole episode, which is actually what allows the two to become closer by the end of it. She's always been a likable character to me because she's almost never on any of the stupid shit some of the characters are on, and I actually speak about her a little more in this video in the top right.
What should we name it?
What about Princess Plant?
That's cool, but what about cinnamon gum?
The difference in the two is made clear from their very first interaction. Things get even more apparent when Chelsea visits her house, and yeah, well, just look at her room.
Is this your room? It's really pink.
Yeah, it is.
Chelsea tries to find some common ground between them, and they eventually both share an interest in her art, if this is art, I guess. They slowly but surely begin to test their own boundaries. Chelsea does more conventionally girly things, and Kimby does things she would have never done without Chelsea's input. There isn't much dialogue in this one. Most of the progression is told through a montage, which is fine. If anything, kudos to the writers for conveying this message so clearly without that much talking, but I feel like there was more ground to be covered here. Out of all of these, this is the one that I would have loved to see be a full episode by itself. There's potential here for lots of themes and interactions. I enjoyed this one. Not much more to say. There are lots of great interactions in Clarence, and lots of great dynamics that I enjoyed to see. Not all of them are conventional, and a lot of them seem weird at first glance, but they all actually provide something for the viewer to enjoy, whether it be how much they disagree, or how they come together by the end of their interactions. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this video. You know what to do. Like, join, subscribe, all that good shit. Have a good day, and take care.